Hey, Bellcross, whenever you get here, you're on time, brother. We just
Exactly, man.
appreciate having you, man.
The only
We
timing
appreciate
is
you.
God's timing, brother.
Oh, even if we got you for a second, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, we just appreciate that you're here, brother.
Yes, indeed.
Hope that did the new computer get in? I heard that you got a new computer, my brother.
Oh, got a new mothership? Okay. Nice. What's
I'm
up,
happy
Weenie?
for you, man. I'm
Hope you
happy for you, brother. Get that new PC smell in the building.
get
Ah, get the turbines churning.
Sniffing that bitch. Yeah. Nice, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Now you can run your games at 70 frames per second instead of 60. Because they're never
Oh, that's what's
optimized.
up. That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
You able to multi-stream
Able
at
to
you?
multi-stream.
Nice.
All right, man. All right. Watch out now. Hold on.
Nah, what? All right.
Watch
Okay.
out now. Multi-stream. That's something I've been meaning to look into because I want to do the pod like that. I finally set up my thing for some shorts for a little the overproduced thing that Beezy and them was talking about. Yeah, I'm starting to try to listen to that as I come up with just different ideas of stuff that I just want to throw out into the world, man. You know what I'm saying? I've been cooking up some stuff and as you know, I hate to make excuses, but we just work a lot
Nah,
around
it's
here.
not a fucking
We're
excuse.
tired.
We're trying to survive.
Yeah,
There's no excuse, bro.
people are like in real survival mode.
It'll
Like
be
every
be
day.
different if we were just
What's up,
lazy.
Weenie?
But you know,
Yeah.
between working 8 to 5, then getting off and studying for this test, I'm really trying not to fucking fail in a couple weeks.
I gotta learn to give myself grace.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone told me that too. Somebody just told me
Be
that.
kind to yourself, man. You got to, man.
Was it my therapist who told me that? I can't remember. Somebody did tell me that too. They was like, you gotta stop being like you work really hard.
You do, man.
And you gotta give yourself some grace. And I want to say that to Chad as well, man. Be sure to give yourself some grace. But if you're being a lazy piece of shit, you know it.
Yeah.
Deep down inside, we know when we're being lazy pieces of shit. You know what I'm saying?
Life is a blessing, man. It's meant to be enjoyed. It's not always meant to be an infinite ladder of grinding, you know. It's okay to stop and smell the roses, man. You know, to be quite honest, yesterday that's what I did, man. I laid in bed after I got off work. I was so fucking done.
And nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I was mentally fried. I was just like, this is a Darius evening right here, man. Just chilled out, man. Sometimes that's what you need.
Man. Sometimes, sometimes like your body is gonna tell you, man.
Yeah,
your body is gonna tell you. And I swear Flake gave me his number, man.
You hope I had good food? Well, I cooked yesterday and I didn't eat after I got done cooking, so
at least you didn't fall asleep while you were cooking and burnt the toast.
Yikes. Oh my gosh, that would be awful.
See, let me tell you how my life is, right? So by the time I get to Thursday, for some reason, Thursday is the day that's going to judge all days.
Yeah.
Because I be like hella tired when Thursday come around. And then I got to be at work all day Thursday.
Oh, yeah, you do.
But once I get over the Thursday hump, even though I got to work all day Friday, I'm okay.
A little bit of
it's
mental,
just for some reason.
Yeah.
I think it may be podcast hype. I'm not going to lie. Like,
yeah.
Maybe I think I'd be excited for the podcast. That's why.
Man, it's definitely the highlight of my week. I ain't gonna lie to you. This is fun. You know, just like you said, this is fun for us, and it's always great talking to everybody in chat. You know, whether you like, you know, DC said, whether you guys are here for a minute or the whole episode, we appreciate y'all, man. It's nice little mental reset. You know, even though I might have to raise hell on Monday, but you know, that's I'll tell y'all about that. I'll tell y'all about that next
week.
A
little hell, baby.
You know, people be getting outside their body on Teams chat. That's all I'm gonna say, man. Don't do that.
Hey, bro, don't. Hey, let me tell you right now. If you capping too hard, like if your caps lock on, too many exclamation marks.
It wasn't even that. It was just the intent behind what he said, and I understood it, and that's okay. I sent it to my team, and we was like, yeah, we'll handle that Monday. All good. It'll be handled.
Man, I need to get Flake's number. I thought I had Flake's number. Man, we need our clip queen in here.
Yeah. But welcome, chat. Thank you guys for being here, man. Lots to talk about. We're just gonna kind of jump into it.
Yeah, we jumping straight into it. Screw the pleasantries. I got my shadies on.
So welcome to episode 249 of the Super Weapon Podcast. Nice little cold intro for you guys. Hope you guys are having a good Saturday. And as we, hinted at last week, we're kind of gonna do a little bit of a deep dive into just the current state of Microsoft and where they're potentially headed. It's been a lot of conversation around things ever since. Honestly, there's always typical conversation around Xbox, but I feel like a lot of it has been heightened since the Game Pass increase and a lot of this news coming out about sales figures and revenue targets and what they're, when the CEOs of these major companies start talking, I always try to remind myself that they're not speaking to the average consumer. They're speaking to shareholders and the board of directors. And Satya's been he's been pretty vocal about what he wants, what his vision of Xbox is going to be. And I think it's pretty fair to say, I've said this before and I still do believe this. I think we're going to have a change in leadership in Xbox within the next 12 to 24 months. Whenever the new Xbox drops, I think we'll have Phil being given his retirement papers, which is an unfortunate thing. That's just my feeling. I don't have any. I haven't heard any rumors about that. Let me just be forthcoming and say that it's just my feelings on it. Because he's been really out of the limelight much of the year, if you think about it, and a lot of other people have been speaking about things and where he usually would, and I think that's a telling sign, in my opinion. But nonetheless, man, we're here to talk about Xbox today. So, just a lot of big news, and I guess we can start off with the 30% revenue target that was leaked, according to some reputable sources from Bloomberg, Jason Schreier, Windows Central. Apparently, this figure was set by Amy Hood, the CFO of Xbox. Excuse me, where she set this target back in 2023. And honestly, it starts to kind of make a little bit of sense because you look back on a lot of the first party titles that have come out over the last couple of years, and whether people have liked them or not, I think it's pretty fair to say that Xbox has done a good job this year, but it seems like overall it's been like a mixed bag of things, starting honestly from Halo Infinite. In my opinion, I think that was the nexus point of a lot of change to come, and where we are and where we're currently headed, as they're starting to hint a little bit at the future of Xbox and what the next gen consoles are going to look like. I don't even want to just call it a traditional console, because like I said, just some comments made by the CEO of Xbox, but it seems like we're headed to another major shift for Xbox, another major shift in philosophy, which is pretty interesting because I was thinking about this too. Xbox seems like they're, what's the best way to put it? They're fine to take more risks than a lot of other companies. And I don't know if that's because they're a much larger company in terms of revenue versus like a PlayStation or a Nintendo, but you look back on the history of PlayStation and Nintendo, and they've kind of like stayed the course and innovated a little bit here and there. And it's worked out pretty well for them, I would say. But it seems like Xbox just really wants to, they want it as Satya put it. He mentioned the Office Everywhere strategy. The Microsoft Office, you can use it on pretty much any device. Phones, laptops, computers. Anything, tablets. You have access to it, and I'm just kind of, I don't know how I necessarily feel about that because, and I'm curious your thoughts on this too. I feel like you have a lot of these really smart people that work at Xbox, very, very business-oriented people who don't necessarily understand the economics of games, of the gaming industry.
Oh, it's in my notes. Oh, that's in my notes.
Like, I just feel like they're trying to fit it into this traditional business model to make as much revenue as possible, and I think that's really hard in this type of industry. But After you've done your research, man, how do you kind of feel about Xbox overall? Because you, what did you call yourself on Twitter, an X bot, which I thought was really clever.
Official. Wait, I can't even remember what the hell I put. Official X.
Yeah, it was something pretty clever.
Xbox X bot.
Yeah.
And you can see I have my shirt on today just to be a pretentious little jerk.
Yeah, I'm wearing a green shirt too, trying to keep the theme going.
Yeah. Hey, we took notes, and it's crazy because you did hit on something that I have in my notes. As far as like Amy Hood goes, but I'm not gonna jump the gun just yet. We my damn it, I forgot. I lost track of what was your question again? Because I'm all over the place. I'm looking at my notes.
How do you kind of feel just about where Xbox is currently? Like I know we'll go through, we're gonna talk about hardware, first party games and stuff like that, Game Pass, but just like overall, through all the noise, what's your kind of feelings? Because you've bought and you've purchased, pretty heavily in Xbox's ecosystem at this point. You still currently have Game Pass. Hanging
on by a thread, brother. Hanging on by a thread. As an Xbox Xbot. That's what I put. How I feel about it overall, I feel like they did so much to fight out of the trenches of, like, we've talked about it. The thing I love about this podcast is you can go back and each episode is like a piece of history, right? Because we're talking about what happened at that specific time. So when you go back and look at older episodes, we talked about pretty much all the good grace that Xbox has gained over the years, kind of clawing themselves out of the Xbox One era, trying to right that ship. You know what I'm saying? Like they finally started to get some really good games on the console. Game Pass was doing great. You know what I'm saying? And like they had all these positive things going for it. And all of a sudden it's just like all these missteps started happening. And I agree with you 100% on, I think that the point of no return kind of did start with Halo Infinite. To me, that was one of their major missteps. But I mean, even after Halo Infinite, right, they did start to gain a little bit of good grace. Even after Infinite, like things, I don't know, with Xbox it seemed like they take 2 steps forward, step back, right?
Yeah.
But now it seems like it's just taking steps back and back and back. And this is what really, really kills me, because a lot of this stuff is in the wording, right? And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. They said they did certain things because of tariff-related issues and things of that nature, right? Market conditions, right? We're going to use finger quotations. Market conditions. So we got to raise the price for hardware because market conditions and stuff like that. But after you see the year that Microsoft as a whole, Xbox as a whole, if you see the year that they have, once you start doing the number crunching, right?
They're doing well. They're doing really well.
It doesn't kind of make sense. It's almost like, it's like, dude, the way that y'all was acting, you were acting as if you guys were in the hole. But as you know, corporate America, right? The country we live in, capitalistic country, where, good is not enough. Great is not enough. We need more. So where does that aim? That aims at the consumer, right? You're passing the buck to the consumer, which sucks because look at what times we're in. You would think they would have a little grace, right? But on a business side, you understand that it's survival of the fittest. They're going to keep sucking you dry until they don't have anything else. But overall, Microsoft is doing some tricky shit, man. and it's falling back on the consumers. And I don't think it's going to end well. I think next year we're going to see a major shift. Even though now this is not saying Microsoft's going to go out of business. Like that's literally not going to happen. But as far as the gaming division goes, we're going to see a major shift because I want to see what the Game Pass numbers are going to be like a couple of months from now with that Game Pass increase, right?
Yeah.
I want to see I want to see how much money they're making from the consoles with these prices being increased, right? Xbox was just getting in good graces. I don't think they can afford this hit. Like I honestly don't. And then with Amy Wood and that ridiculous margin of 30%, like you said, right? I'll say this and then we can carry on. I don't want to be long-winded
No,
here
you're
because we got
good,
a lot to
man.
cover.
No, you're
But
good.
what you said is what I have in my notes when you say people are looking at this from a business aspect and not really the gaming business, right? That's what I have in my notes for Amy, right? I think she throws out this ridiculous number thinking that the business of gaming is the business of business, right?
Yeah.
She throws out this ridiculous number. She's going to get her feelings hurt because people are saying there's literally no way they can hit that number without drastic measures such as more layoffs, studio closures, stuff like that. Even if they take these extremes, Darius, it's still not going to meet that 30%. So where does that leave Xbox? Like, what are they going to do if they don't make the 30, right? Or are they just shooting high in hopes of hitting the mark, but they're okay if it, like, do they have some grace within these numbers? Or is Amy Hood just a hardcore bitch, right? Like, yo, you hit these fucking numbers or you're fucking out of here, right? You never know because business could be so cutthroat.
True.
And that's where I'm at with it, man. I think the future, can they turn it around? Probably, but as we speak right now, the future of Xbox is, I'm very curious to see what's going to, and then with all their games now being distributed across all consoles and platforms, like a lot of people are talking on the internet and Reddit and Twitter and everything, like, what is the point of owning an Xbox? You're going to raise the price for something that people are already questioning, do they need it or not, right?
Yeah.
It's just like you're making really, really bad, in my opinion, you're making really, really bad business moves right now, especially with the way the economy is, man. Like, you would think they would show a little bit of grace, like, hey, all right,
Yeah.
we could afford to let this slide. We could afford to leave the Xbox price at this. But like I said before, with corporate greed and stuff, let me tell you, these companies are never, ever, ever willing to take a hit. It's small, very small instances where you will read about a CEO who used his year bonus to give to all his employees or something like that. That's very, very rare. So I don't know, man. Like,
I believe Satya's bonus was pretty insane. I think.
Don't get me started. It's in my notes. It was 100 million.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's close to, or it's like 96 or 100 million.
After they done laid off about.
And to answer your question, Bill Cross, not entirely so. So he says, having a few retailers dropped Xbox from their stores. That is incorrect. So you can still, and this is, if no one's ever worked a retail job before, if you don't sell a certain product, people don't, retailers typically won't order additional product for something that isn't selling, right? And just to give you guys some ideas of what I'm talking about, I'm just going to give you guys some numbers from their earnings call. This was October 29th, so this was literally 3 days ago. So Microsoft as a whole, their revenue, they're up 18% year over year. They made $77 billion in the last quarter, which is fucking insane. Up 18% overall. Operating income, $38 billion. So that's just money that they have to, fucking throw whatever, right? So they're up 18% as a whole, the company as a whole. Numbers get a little bit worse for wear when you start looking at Xbox. Hardware, Xbox is down 29% year over year. This is the second time. Last year, I looked this up. Last year, they were down around the same percentage on hardware. They literally can't give these fucking things away. Nobody's buying Xboxes anymore. And that's where a lot of the speculation and conversation came from, people saying, oh, well, they're going to get out of the hardware business. Xbox is done with hardware. And that's just not true. They're not.
According to Sarah Bond
and Satya the other day, he came out and he talked about the next gen consoles as well and his vision for what he thinks it should be. But yeah, so Xbox is literally bleeding. They're bleeding money on hardware right now, quite literally. And content and services for Xbox, that's things like games, Game Pass, things like that, is up 1% year over year, which is a little bit better than what they were expecting. So about $5.5 billion for the quarter. Do with that what you will. And that could be a combination of, I think, like I said, I think Xbox overall had a pretty good year in terms of gaming. A lot of people aren't talking about Outer Worlds 2 right now. Reviewed very well. I've watched quite a bit of the game. Looks fantastic. I plan on buying it at some point. Grounded 2, a few months ago, came out, did really, really well. I couldn't find any hardcore numbers on Gears of War Reloaded, the remaster. So I'm kind of leaving
Ninja
Gaiden just came out as well. Ninja Gaiden selling pretty well. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion did really well, even though it had some technical issues. People, it reviewed well. Seems like it sold well. Doom, Dark Ages, can't forget about that as well. Like, they had a pretty good year in terms of gaming and variety of games, not just a particular type of genre that they stuck with. So
Call of Duty,
like in exactly, Call of Duty hasn't even released yet. So that is to say, I think that's why Satya made the comments that he made about wanting to spread the butter, just like Windows Office, putting Xbox or their ecosystem in as many places as they can to probably hit that target as close as possible, that 30% target. Unfortunately, this is kind of where it ties in my opinion, to the entire Xbox, into tech in general, honestly, because there's currently a shortage on a lot of CPUs, GPUs, and stuff that not just Microsoft can't get their hands on fast enough. Amazon, Google, a lot of these major players in the AI data center space can't buy it enough. Yeah, they can't make this stuff fast enough for these companies to acquire. And so once again, if you guys haven't been paying attention to the news, there's been a lot of layoffs at a lot of companies this past week, as these earning calls have started to come out. So I think this was a way for them to try to recoup some of the money that they wanted to use and push into AI and data centers, while also trying to refine what they view as valuable for the Xbox brand, which is unfortunate because we've had a lot of studio closures. We've had a lot of layoffs. We've had, games being canceled. The most recent one from ZeniMax Studios, the MMO they were working on, they shut it down completely. Just, and it's unfortunate that this is the way that they're going, and this tells me that they're becoming a lot more risk adverse to making riskier games. Essentially, they're looking for hits, and I think they kind of, I know what I just said, like they had a great year, but I don't think they can afford to have another Starfield or afford to have another Halo Infinite on their hands, because you have, they basically prop those games up to be like the really big heavy hitters, of course, but they didn't sell well. And, we're unfortunately, here we are at the state of things. And I think Xbox is looking more at Game Pass to be the driving revenue factor of what they want to do going forward. I think hardware is just going to supplement that. I don't think it's going to be the focus anymore for them, which I said, like I mentioned earlier, whereas PlayStation and Nintendo, they kind of have their own versions of like a Game Pass-esque service, but ultimately the things that drive their business are their first party exclusives and the hardware that they sell. And you know, it's it's kind of telling. Like I said, you can kind of look at these numbers and tell you that where they're focusing their money. You know, Azure, once again, Azure, other services that they sell like Microsoft Office. I'm sure whoever's listening to this podcast, your job uses it in some capacity, I'm sure. And that just, once again, that's telling. So it's an interesting, I like to call this a transition period, you know, because, you know, they're already starting to talk about the next generation of consoles. And I think they're honestly just preparing people for when they ultimately rip the Band-Aid off.
Yep.
You know, and that leads me to another question I had for you, because I think it's worth talking about. Do you think we get another family of consoles, a la the Xbox Series S and X, or do you think they just focus on a premium box to sell to people? Because nobody really talks about the Series S. I know there were a lot of studios that had a lot of opinions about it, that it was a little bit difficult to optimize their games for it, and that's why some third-party games never made their way over to Xbox this generation.
I think that was a test. Like a lot of things that Microsoft do, like even with the Xbox One, you know, they come with this innovative idea, right? Like, hey, you know, we're gonna make the Xbox Connect. You know, we always have our jokes with the Xbox Connect. It's an ongoing running joke amongst our friends group about the Xbox. Record that.
Yeah.
But you know, they had these ideas, right? And it was like, okay, we're gonna make this the ultimate home entertainment system.
Yeah.
And I always give anybody props for trying something new.
Yeah.
Did it land? No. But at least they tried it, right? I think they got a lot of that from Nintendo because the Wii was such a big hit at the time with all the interactive stuff you can do with the Wii, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Xbox tried to put their little spin on it, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, it didn't work, right? So with this generation of consoles, I guess someone at the table, the big round table, was like, hey, you know what? We're going to look at affordability, right? And we're going to try to make consoles for everyone. Like we're going to have our lower tier, we're going to mid tier, then we're going to have our big dog. And I think they did some number crunching. They probably looked at that and said, well, this didn't benefit us too well by doing this. Because like you said, you know, you heard about, you know, certain third party games couldn't be, you know.
Biggest one I remember was Baldur's Gate 3, if I remember correctly, was the biggest one I remember that a lot of people were talking about.
So the big dogs at the round table probably did all this number crunching. They looked at that. And with this new system that's coming out, they was probably like, you know what? We really didn't see a good return on that. So I think what we're going to do here is we're going to focus on one premium, according to Sarah Bond, system, right? We're going to focus on one big dog system that's rumored to be $1,000+, right? It's going to it's going to be close to a PC experience as you can get. These are all the rumors and buzzwords that are floating around the net. We honestly don't know what the hell we're going to get. Sarah Bond dropped like one sentence and everybody just kind of flew off the handle and took that however they wanted to take it. But no, I don't think we see the multiple consoles next gen console. I think they're going to focus on one, and considering this console is going to come out during a time where, you know, even with this what do you call it, this administration and whatever they're doing with the tariffs or whatever, I see that that's still going to be an ongoing thing, right? Like
for sure.
You're still going to be trying to figure out what's going on in the market. So I don't think they want to risk it. Like I don't think, you know, they want to risk it and waste money making smaller consoles that people are not going to buy. So they really can't. Like, I don't think they could take that hit. So I think we just see one. I think we're going to see one, just one,
Yeah, I agree.
whatever. I hope it's like, I already started thinking about how it's going to look. Me personally, I'm saying it here and now. GTA 6 is going to be my step into PC gaming.
Ooh, okay.
And I think your boy I think your boy might be done with consoles. I think I might be done with console gaming, bro.
I mean, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head too, and that's why I wanted to ask you about the hardware future, because just like you said, comments from Sarah Bond and more recently Satya too, where he mentioned and quote, he said it's kind of funny that people think about the console and PC as two different things. I think they're going to try to innovate into bridging that technical gap between PC and consoles, because as we know, consoles typically will lag behind PC counterparts as far as the hardware goes, and usually like a generation or two. It's typically been lately.
Yeah, I think
It's getting a little bit closer together, but honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing if this console comes out, or this I don't even want to call it a console just because of the way he's talking about it. This thing, whenever it comes out, is probably going to be the closest we'll get to parity when it comes to PC gamers and console gamers, which I think is a good thing, because that would help developers not having to, optimize the games for, lesser spec systems. I know that people still have, lesser spec systems. I mean, even the PCs I have are considered old at this point. But I think parity is good in the industry when it comes to hardware, because it kind of removes some of those barriers that developers have. And I'm all for that. Now, the caveat is,
and I'm the caveat because I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, when you have premium parts, you pay a premium price. And I don't think, I've said this before, DC has said this before, and I still do believe that this is going to be the first 4-figure console that is released. I do. I don't think it's a matter of if. I just think it's whenever we get the actual announcement that it's going to happen. I think this will, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it even more, what if it isn't necessarily and chat, let me know what you think about this too. Like, what if it isn't necessarily a family of consoles, but you know how you can buy a cell phone, you can have as much storage as you want, or if you want more or less storage, if you want a slightly less powerful phone, it's the case is the same, but the guts are a little bit different. I could see that being a thing, like, because honestly, I don't remember the last time I've heard of anyone like going
like
to
a pre-bought PC,
like a
like
pre.
when you go to,
Essentially, that's what I think they're going to
when
do.
you go to a main gear or something, and there's like 4 computers on the screen, and one is priced at this price.
Exactly. Like this one has
So
a
let me
little bit
tell you
more
my problem
RAM.
with that.
That's what I don't. Now let me say this. I don't think I don't agree with it, but that's just what I think they're going to do.
So let me tell you my problem with this whole ordeal. And I know if you keep up with Super Weapon, I may have said some things different in the past, being an elitist asshole, but because I really do believe that consoles should cost a little bit more considering what we're getting from them. Yeah. But I do understand the times that we are in. I do understand that there's a lot of people who looking at, let's say, Sarah Bond, whatever, $1,200 console, which is the kind of the rumor of the price of the new Xbox, right? I always thought that console gaming and PC gaming I always thought that they were both needed, right? And what I mean by that is I consider PC gaming a little bit more expensive. And for those people who want that experience, will get that experience. I feel like consoles should still be here in a sense, because a lot of people just want to put their game in and play. computers, sometimes you got to play with the settings. You got to, you got external parts, and maybe you need a bigger hard drive. You got to go buy one, open your computer up, put it inside, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like I'm a firm believer in having both, but I can see a future where Xbox kind of push that limit to, like you said, maybe there'll be different towers with different kind of specs, but I wouldn't necessarily want to get rid of counseling because of simple. Some people just want to buy their shit and play it. You know what I mean? Even if
Agreed.
it's
Yeah.
not at the best specs, like a PC. Like me, I'm lazy, man. Like when we sit up here and we decide, like Battlefield, for instance, I'm like, I could have bought it for my PC, but then when they were saying like all the settings and stuff you had to adjust, my lazy ass just bought it for my Xbox. I was like, I'm not doing all that. So I'm just going to buy it for my
Yeah.
Xbox. So yeah. And
that's a really good point.
What Weenie said in the chat, like once you start getting up to 1,200, 1,300, there's certain expectations that's going to come with that price.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to hear no bullshit about 2 frames per second, blah, blah, blah. Like once I start paying up in those prices, you better give me the fucking butter. All right.
Yeah.
I want the smoothest of the smooth. You know what I'm saying? I want my games to look beautiful, but I still feel like there's a need for consoles. Like I don't want to see consoles, even though we're not saying that they are, but I just want to voice my opinion on.
Yeah.
I still want consoles to be a thing, even in the far future. Like I always feel like, some people don't have the money to spend all that money, so they go to consoles. Like I think consoles play a very important part in the gaming world.
I agree with that, man. You actually hit the nail on the head too when you said sometimes you just want to, I was going to say put a disc in, but we don't do that anymore. Sometimes you just want to click on the title card of the game and it just work. You just play with the limited time that you have. And I think that's going to be a really big challenge for them going forward. Namely, I mean, you even look at the ROG Ally that just came out. I watched a few reviews on it, and that was some of the things that people were talking about, was just like the initial setup can be a little tricky for someone who may not be, tech savvy or used to interacting with that type of device, and that could be a barrier of entry to a lot of people. And if they go this route where they're trying to essentially merge these two hardware platforms together, whatever that looks like, it has to work coming out. It has to work out of the box. Like it just has to. You can't tell me, oh, well, you need to,
5 updates.
You know what? I'm fine with that. If I just plug my shit in and I just have to hit next, cool.
Right.
I'm fine with that. But don't tell me I have to go to this site to download this particular
drivers.
these drivers, and a lot of people don't want to do that. I don't mind doing it. It's the type of shit I do in the daily anyway. I'm a little bit more. I try to take myself out of stuff like that because the average consumer just wants their shit to work, especially a mom or a dad who just got off work. Has a limited amount of time to play.
My brother.
Games. Your brother, for instance, he's a perfect example. Shout out to your brother. He just wants to game the little time that he has, and that's something I'm actually really worried about now that you brought it up. Like it didn't really cross my mind, but that's why we have these conversations, because those are
like
type of things.
Said in the chat, going into your BIOS to enable a secure bot.
Yeah, you have to.
Boot.
Yeah, you have to do those type of things, and like the average person's not gonna either A, know how to do it, B, even want to look up how to do it. And even if they figure, it might take them forever to figure that shit out, and they'll be like, well, I gotta go to work tomorrow, can't play. And that's where Xbox is going to have a lot of challenges, and I wonder if that's them using this Xbox everywhere. Everything's an Xbox strategy, is them trying to cover up that particular piece of it. And if that's the case, I think that's going to hurt them in the long run. You already have a growth problem with Game Pass at this point. Game Pass made sense in 2018 to let's say 2022. We can say that 4-year span when they really start heavy hitting Game Pass. When they needed growth, when they had a new product, It was fun. It was exciting. Oh, this is cool. I can just pay $10 a month and I can pay all my Xbox games. Great. But now that you have an established base, you know, you have to come up with new business verticals. You know, I know I'm throwing a lot of like business jargon at you guys, but you have to come up with new innovation is the word that Satya kept saying in that interview. And it actually kept making me really angry because once again, that type of stuff is not for the average consumer. They're talking to shareholders. They're talking to the board. They're talking to people who work at the company. You know, that's why CEOs do interviews, in case you guys are wondering. They're not talking to the average person. So it's definitely interesting to see because at this point you can't get off the Game Pass boat. You know, you sold this to your community, to everyone, that this is the future of gaming. You know, this is where you want to be. And that's going to be a really hard sell because, and I'm trying to find, I think I actually found some reliable information on how they actually have Game Pass, how it works. And oh goodness, let me see. I have so many notes.
So the mystery has been revealed.
Well, it's kind of it's a little bit of what I speculated, or what we speculated rather, where
they come to technical difficulties.
You have like a flat price that they would pay a studio, a potential portion of whatever the development costs were. So let's say there's like 25 or 30% of a, you know, let's say a game costs $1 million to make, they would pay 20 to 30% of that. Or they would propose that studios would get paid profits based on engagement. How many times your game's being downloaded a month, how much that game is being played. A lot of studios didn't like that shit. They told Xbox no. They're like, nah, I don't think we want to do that. Which is going to be, once again, that's a really tough thing. So that's even more money that they're coming out of the pocket out that they don't want to give out, right? Which is what led to the price increase, in my opinion. Because sure, you may have 30 some odd million people paying for Game Pass right now. I would say a quarter of those people, I'm being generous with numbers, I don't really know this, but I would imagine a quarter of those people are probably either going to cancel, have canceled, and then the rest are going to keep it. And then there's probably people, you have your whales, people who are very wealthy that don't even fucking notice the price increase. You know, it's whatever. It's another bill that doesn't even matter to them. And that's how they're going to try to offset that, which is, once again, it's going to be a tough thing, you know, because we've seen other streaming services do this year over year. Netflix, Hulu, even though Hulu's about to disappear and just be folded into Disney Plus, to the point where you have multiple streaming services partnering with each other. Hey, you can get Hulu, Disney Plus, and HBO Max for X amount of dollars
all over again.
It's essentially turning into cable. So, but I don't see that being. I cannot fathom that ever happening in gaming. I can't fathom PlayStation going to Xbox, be like, hey, do you want to just, you know, do a little bundle, $40 a month to get access to these particular tiers? I don't see that shit happening. So Xbox is looking at that probably like, okay, well, we really got to squeeze some blood out of this stone. And, you know, you're going to see, in my opinion, I think you're going to see further consolidation. You're going to see less risk being taken. I mean, games are going to keep getting pushed back. You know, Fable got pushed out of this year into next year. We're probably not going to see that. I would surmise we won't see Fable until fall of next year.
I mean, it's so many caveats and what ifs, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't know what with this 30% margin, we don't know.
Yeah. What how long do they have to hit that? Is that just for the next 12 months?
Yeah.
Is that
like, especially because games, like, if that's for the next year, right? What do you expect these studios to do?
Yeah.
Are they going to be crunch? Like, you can't make a game in a year. So the profits have to be in Game Pass, but even then, because you got to have games to put on Game Pass. So the numbers that she's spewing, when you really start breaking it down, it don't make sense.
No.
Because it takes years to develop a game, right? And if she I wonder if she looked at the lineup and was like, well, these are the games we got coming out next year, so we should be able to hit this mark. But what she not realizing is, and this is for the whole gaming industry, Grand Theft Auto comes out.
Yeah.
That's going to shock the gaming industry as a whole. I feel like it's going to, people already moved because it supposedly comes out May. And everybody already moved their games around May. No one wants
Yeah.
to come out when GTA comes out. So
And that's
it's an uphill battle.
honestly, let's just be honest. That's going to boost PlayStation sales. It really is. You know, more people are going to buy PlayStation. I think it's going to boost PS5 Pro sales specifically. You know, I'm curious about the numbers for PlayStation. I haven't looked it up. I saw some conversation people were talking about PlayStation 5 this past week about how I think they're actually lagging a little bit behind the PlayStation 4 for where they are in the generation compared to where PlayStation 4 was.
I think it's the Pro. I think because I think the PlayStation Pro,
yeah,
may be missing the marks that they had intended for it. If I'm not mistaken,
I mean, with the part, once again, price plays a lot into that. You know, a lot of people can't justify.
Hey man, let's just be real.
Spending $700 when they have to pay rent or
people ain't got it right now. All right, let's just be 100% real. They are, and I'm speaking of not just Xbox. PlayStation have a couple of hurdles that they have to get over as well, and it's all because of the climate that we're currently living in. Yeah. Everyone's trying to just navigate through this shit, and hopefully a lot of people don't fall off the boat. You know what I'm saying? Until we see the land, until we see land, right? We all just pretty much trying to survive. And with that being said, I think Xbox is just making a lot of the wrong moves. I think in this moment where everyone's fighting for survival and you had such an astronomical year, I understand that you're preparing with a business. You're essentially always preparing for that next year, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever you made this year, it's like, oh, you clap and slap yourself on the ass and give high fives in the meeting. But a lot of that money
for shareholders, man,
is probably going to be used to cover the hit that they possibly could take next year. But I feel like they don't take a big hit if they show a little grace to their community that got them to that point, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, honestly, in another, you know, we talked about, you know, Halo Infinite being a major turning point. I think the second one was them buying Activision. I do. When that $69 billion came across Amy Hood's desk, she was probably like, okay, maybe I need to take a little bit closer, look at the numbers on what they're doing over there. See what's really happening, you know, and you know, with them reportedly losing as much money as they did putting Call of Duty on Game Pass last year, I bet you that probably was a big decision for them to change the tier of Game Pass that they did. You know, because as we talked about all the time, Call of Duty usually ends up being the number one selling game every year. And that's not going to go anywhere, despite our feelings on the franchise at this point, or what seems to be
still going to make money.
Public sentiment, you know, it's still going to sell well because there are people who don't exist in these circles, right? Who don't care to read an IGN article or to watch a YouTube video on somebody's review on the game. Like, a lot of people will just go buy it. People like my brother and your brother, you know, they just, hey, I get a couple hours a night to play. I'm going to play, you know, I'm going to play this or something else really quick. And Winnie says in chat, the difference between the PS4 and PS4 Pro was way more than that, than the PS5 and PS5 Pro. Are you talking about in terms of price difference or performance, or both? Because that's a good question. That's a good statement, rather. Performance. I agree with that. I think the PS4 Pro was a much bigger leap in performance versus than what I've seen. Honestly, I haven't really even heard anyone talk about PS5 Pro in a way that makes me want to buy it. You know, because I still have my PS4 Pro. It's up in a closet somewhere, you know, collecting dust. But I can't ever really look back, and I don't look at a PS5 Pro and be like, man, I really need that right now. You know, it's something. Oh man, my games look like shit. You know, because every couple of weeks I'll play God of War. You know, I've been chipping away at Ragnarok a little bit, and not once playing it on the base PS5 that I just feel like I'm missing out on anything, or my experience has been lessened. You know, technically, or you know, the game is beautiful. It runs. I'll give Sony credit. The first party lineups, you know, when they release first party games, usually they're great outside of Concord. You know, a lot of people, you know, we can't forget about Concord, man. I'm always jab somebody with that one, but
man, just to think, damn. When you think of games that just come and went, like it's kind of
$400 million evaporated.
And you just think of like the devs and all these people who sat here and worked their ass off on this game just for it to die in a week.
Yep. And
did that game last like a week?
It was literally like 7 days, and then the studio closed not too long after that. Mm-hmm. I would say like in the span of a month, it was all over for the entire studio. Gone. Like it never. $400 million, just gone, just like that. Yeah.
Man, y'all could cure world hunger with the money they be wasting, boy.
Yeah.
400. Yeah, like you said, what was it? 69. What did he pay for that? Billion?
No, it's 400 million. I think
no. I'm talking about the acquisition of
Activision. It was 69 billion. Correct.
Bro, you could feed America with that goddamn.
And then you got to think like a few years before that, they bought Bethesda and all those other studios. I think Bethesda alone was like close to 8. Let me Bethesda acquisition price. I'm pretty sure it was like 8 billion. Yeah, when they bought ZeniMax Media, it was 7.5 billion. So they bought Bethesda and ZeniMax for 7.5. Then they spent another $65 billion a few years later. So yeah, that you spend that, the bill gonna come due eventually. And I think that bill has been presented to the Xbox leadership, and they're like, hey, we need y'all to pay for this. It's already enough that they're trying to position themselves as being competitors to TikTok and other streaming services. They don't look at, this is out of sight. Once again, this is out of sight, is out of mouth. They don't look at PlayStation and Nintendo as their competition. They're looking at things like TikTok and YouTube and other streaming services as their competition for people's attention, which is a very fair assessment. So the rise of social media and how people spend their time is much different than it was 10 years ago. And so, they just have a really big uphill battle. And I don't really know where this ends. I don't. I think next generation is going to be a different vibe for Xbox. We're already kind of seeing some of that, permeate through the decisions they're making now. I don't think they're done closing studios, unfortunately, because you got to wonder, some of their smaller studios like Double Fine, who just released, was it Keeper? I believe the Lighthouse game. I don't know if you guys have seen that or are familiar with Double Fine.
Keeper, yeah, that's the game everybody be talking about, that little living lighthouse.
Yeah, but you got to imagine, like, what was the price of that versus how much if they made in profit on that, but are they going to keep allowing their studios the freedom to make the games that they want to make? Because you remember, that was a big thing that Phil and everybody was talking about. They prided themselves on that.
We just want to let them do what they do.
We let the studios do what they do, and look where we are now. Is that going to continue to be the mission? I don't think so. I think they're gonna become very risk adverse when it comes to the future, which is unfortunate. If the world just didn't have billionaires, they would be able to use, $96.5 million. I know that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things for Xbox, but that probably could have saved the studio. That could have saved probably, what was the game that just shut down? That AAA studio that the Initiative was making, Perfect Dark. It went up in smoke. We never saw that game live outside of that curated gameplay demo from a year or two ago. That game was doomed to fail from the start, and it's unfortunate. It's like, are they going to continue to do this with their other iconic IPs? Halo's already coming to PlayStation, and there's word on the street is they're already making plans, or they're already working on remakes for 2 and 3 to not have multiplayer, of course. And I don't even know when we'll see the next or the sequel to Infinite at this point. I don't know.
I
don't know.
It's like watching all your heroes just die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like from Xbox, like I honestly don't even. I'm not even excited about like Halo anymore. Any Halo news, like Infinite was a disaster in the sense of they rushed that game out for whatever reasons. Like that game came out half baked, and it came out with that "we'll fix it later" mentality, and it never got fixed.
Yeah.
Because the shift went over to multiplayer, which is in a fairly good shape right now, but the numbers reflect the reason why you have to come out strong. Like we live in a very microwave society, right? When it comes to music, when it comes to everything, right? Because I could even talk about music, how we get so much music. Just think about, all right, for example, the Clips album. Nobody's talking about that anymore. And it's not because it was a bad album. It's because we get so much every week, right?
Yeah.
There's so many releases. Like back in the day, even like bringing it back to video games, you had a time to breathe and kind of like soak in what you were playing. And now it's just like, look at these last couple of months. Ninja Gaiden 4. Battlefield
I want to play Ninja Gaiden
Royale.
so bad, bro. That shit looks so good.
What else came out? Ghost of Yotei. All these games just coming out back to back to back to back to back to back.
And they're all relatively good games. I could say,
Borderlands, like all these games.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that to say this, like you can't release something half-ass because people are going to forget that shit in an instant. And when we live in content creator culture as well, throwing more logs onto the fire, because a lot of people who are creating content are blowing through games, which is something that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So it's creating a culture of keeping up with the Joneses. Now everybody feels like they have to play these games and jump to the next game and jump to the next game. And
FOMO,
dude,
man.
it's so many games.
So bad.
Dog. Arc Raiders, what else? Like dude, I have a list of games right here that I want.
When does COD come out?
From this year alone. Yep, COD, no matter what people say, myself included, COD's gonna make noise. It's gonna do numbers. It's COD. COD is like it's magical.
It comes out November 14th. Okay, I was like, man, I swore it was coming out earlier than that, but yeah. Yeah, we're
you can't. I say all that to say this: you can't afford to really drop a half-ass game. You got to come out swinging, and then people they want in-game content, and because if you don't, then a new game comes out next week, and guess what? You forget about what you were playing.
Yeah. True.
Oh, I gotta have the new game, and blah blah blah, and it's crazy. The game sphere is like really really wild right now, and I could do these parallels because I keep up with a lot of what's going on in the music industry as well. And it's not that different. Gaming and music is, when it comes to the back end business part, it's really not that different.
I mean, I'll give Satya and everyone like Microsoft leadership credit. They are right. They are competing with TikTok. They are competing, just like you said, with other forms of entertainment. And there's only so many hours in a day, especially when we're all working like we live in a coal mine at this point, trying to survive and just make enough to buy a sandwich or two. It's a problem that I don't know if it can or ever will be fixed at this point. Does Xbox or does gaming still continue down this trend of becoming something more niche for entertainment? But I think it hit a high in COVID. I think gaming as a whole probably hit the highest highs that we were ever going to see from 2020 to 2022. And just like an addict will, they're chasing that high and they want those numbers back. Not just Xbox. I'm talking PlayStation. I'm talking Nintendo. I'm talking all these other companies. They're chasing that high and they want that back. And I think all these companies are struggling in their own way. I mean, I don't think it's ridiculous to say, in my opinion, the PS5 generation has been lacking in terms of just their standard that they typically have set over the last couple of years or last few generations. You don't really hear much about Switch 2. Don't come after me, Nintendo Mafia. Put your guns down,
man. But the thing with Nintendo is they never want to admit their faults. And let's be honest.
Well,
like,
I don't. Well,
Switch 2. You're right. The Switch 2 ain't really been like, it's sold, but it wasn't making as much noise as the Switch 1 did. Like, people, content creators and stuff, they had a time. All right, they had a time. As far as PlayStation goes, right? PlayStation people, hey, I know a lot of people say, hey, my PlayStation is collecting dust. After you play the go-to games, right? After you play the God of Wars, the Spider-Mans, and all the they're great single player games. Like, people ain't really. I know 5 people off rip like my PlayStation 5.
I have to remind myself to use it on my PlayStation 5 because there are still some games on there. Like I said, I've been slowly chipping away at Ragnarok. It's probably gonna take me another 6 months to finish it, which is fine. I'm good with that. I enjoy my PlayStation 5 the times I do play it, but it's a
great system. Don't get me wrong.
It is, but it's very infrequent. Weenie, we're gonna talk about that next week. We're gonna talk about the Pocket Pair Nintendo lawsuit next week because it plays into the patents that they filed as well. I read about that a few days ago. We're gonna talk about that next week. But yeah, so that's the current state of Xbox. I think that, like I said, I think we're heading into a transition period, into an era of gaming, not just for Xbox, but in general, that it's going to probably be radically different from what we've seen before. As the fight for people's eyes and attention continues to intensify, I think, things are going to take a turn that I don't know where we end up 10 years from now, 5 years from now, but we're going to be here talking about it with you guys.
Xbox is going to pretty much going to go no hardware at all or full blown PC at this point. I think that's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I think
years from now, not anything now, but like maybe next 10 years, I think it converts into something of that nature.
To be honest, man, we've been creeping in that direction anyway. With consoles, just in general, they've been, like I said, the parity is getting a little bit closer than it used to be for PC versus console. And I think Xbox is going to be the first company to try to erase that line, but they're going to have a tall task. You got to keep it simple for the average consumer. Especially if you want people to pay upwards of $1,000 for your console.
I do want to do some independent research because now that I think about it, I do have these people I've read on the Reddits and stuff where they're saying that, their PlayStation is collecting dust. But when you look at these game sales, it makes me wonder, where are people playing? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I always try to keep in mind that, the average person isn't going to post on Reddit. The average Joe Schmo doesn't care to do shit like that.
I'm thinking PlayStation though. I honestly think.
Oh, for sure. In terms of console gaming,
yeah. I think PlayStation, 100%. Even though it's not hyped up, or because I'm so used to these consoles, like people are just constantly talking about them, like the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 2, if you want to go back further.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just think, just because you don't really hear about it, I do think there's a place at PlayStation. I think they're with console, because I truly believe is PC, PlayStation, and then Xbox. I think it's kind of in that order. You could switch PC and PlayStation around maybe, but I'm just curious, like, as to where people, the majority of people are playing their games.
Gamers, yeah. I'm gonna still say PlayStation. I think that's just, and I think it's been that way for a while now. PC gaming is becoming more popular as the years go on because you can buy a pre-built machine, you can do all those things now. But I think that's not gonna change. And honestly, like I said, I think when
And
GTA
where
6
does
comes
Nintendo
out,
sit? Like,
they've always been an outlier.
yeah,
You
because
know,
that's true. Because
you're not gonna buy Call of Duty 7, Black Ops 7 on Switch 2. You're not gonna buy
especially after
Witcher
that
4
Elden
on
Ring.
Switch 2. You're not gonna buy, and hell, a lot of these games never even they'll never hit Switch 2. So,
Yeah.
PlayStation has always kind of been that, at least in the last 10 to 15 years, in my opinion. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. Hell, like I said, you can't Xbox can't get people to buy their consoles, to the point that most retailers are only keeping like a handful in their stores, and they're not replenishing stock because nobody's buying them. Why would they keep ordering more if nobody's going to buy the ones that they have?
So listen up, ponies. You're back. Right?
Not your bag.
I will be the first to admit I will bow down. Only this once. PlayStation, you Sony ponies, you're back.
Yeah.
Damn you.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a good place to stop because I can't dismiss these ads anymore, and I don't want them to.
And I gotta pee.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I gotta piss.
So that's our take on Xbox, the current state of just Xbox in general. Like I said, I would once again encourage you guys to look up these numbers if they're of any interest to you yourself. They're readily available online, and you can read the earnings call reports yourself. It's all public information because they're a publicly traded company. So
you can listen to it too. It's pretty interesting.
You can listen to it. Yeah. If you like that kind of stuff, I would say just read it, because some of that stuff is a lot of business jargon and can be a little boring, to be quite honest. But if you're not really interested in it, I would just say read it, skim through it, whatever. But yeah, we'll be talking about Nintendo next week. I promise you that. I love talking about Nintendo. People get so mad.
Oh, hell yeah. Get ready for all kind of technical issues.
People get mad because they try to sue their problems away, and that doesn't always work. So fuck Nintendo. All right, thank you guys for hanging out for episode 249 of the Super Weapon Podcast, man. Always a great time hanging out with everyone here. I appreciate you guys for your input, for hanging out in chat. And let us know what you think about this stuff. Are you interested in what Xbox has going forward? What's next for them? Do you still have Game Pass? I would love to actually hear that, honestly.
Or am I the only one?
Yeah. Are you an outlier like DC? Or, do you care as long, or, do you care where you play your Xbox games as long as you can play Gears or your favorite franchises? I'm curious about that kind of stuff. So you guys find me everywhere, Darius the Artist. Don't really have much, like I said, and DC has the floor.
Well, what a action-packed episode. You guys sat around for all of our Microsoft babble. Thank you. We appreciate that. But we have to, it's not always fun and games around here, goddamn. We got to get down to the nitty-gritty, if you feel what I'm saying. But anywho, as always, thank you guys for participating in such an amazing talk. And we'll have more to come as we dig deep inside of the industry and to find out what the fuck is going on. But anyway, yeah, that's about it. I have to use the bathroom. So per usual, yeah. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I did some volunteer work this weekend, passing out food boxes for the church. Nice. For one of my coworkers' church. I'm going to try to start making that an every weekend thing if I can, because I've been just trying to find ways to help and give back during these turbulent times that we're having. You know what I'm saying? We definitely appreciate you, Bellcross. Thank you, my brother, for always tuning in. I'm glad you got your new PC. I got to come check out your stream. I've been lacking on everybody's stream, too. I just been so busy, but I'm going to come check you out, brother. And just everybody, have a good weekend, man, and spread love. Too much hate out here.
All right,
Hug
guys.
your friends. Love everyone.
Have a good, love everybody. And we will see you guys next week.